Okay, Dalty, Tishmahori, Kovglaka, Falcherlina Nucht. Good evening, everybody. You're all very welcome online this evening to what is our senior cycle options night. And this is the first of two presentations, 2 evenings we'll introduce this year. The second night will take place after the midterm break. So I'd like to welcome the panelists tonight. Ms. McNamara, who is our programs coordinator, Ms. Murrahy, who's our guidance counsellor, and Ms. O'Callaghan, who's our special educational needs coordinator. The idea tonight is that we will introduce the first part of senior cycle options, and senior cycle options has got a number of elements to it. One element is the subject choice and the subjects available in 5th year and how students will select those subjects. And while that will be briefly mentioned this evening, it is not the primary focus of this evening's webinar. It will be the primary focus of the second part of the webinar, which, as I said, will take place shortly after the midterm break. The other areas of senior cycle options that we look at are the programs, and they include transition year. And I'm very pleased to say that this coming academic year, we will be expanding the transition year program in our school. So there will be a transition year class available to students of Gaelcholáiste and Clár, and that will be 3 Gaelga. There will also be a transition year class introduced into the community college setting, and of course that will be through English. And that's the first time in many, many years that transition year will be available as an option to students in Ennis Community College. And we're looking forward to expanding that so that they join their colleagues in Gaelcholáiste and Clár, San Idervlin. The other program, of course, is the Leaving Cert Applied program, and we'll speak a little bit about this evening, the Leaving Cert Applied program. And finally, we will be introducing a testing series to all 3rd year students in the coming weeks. And the purpose of this testing will be to assist students and their parents and guardians in making the best decisions possible around program choices and around subject choices. So we're going to start this evening with transition year. We will then move into a look at that testing program that I mentioned, and then we'll move into some of the guidance area, and finally we'll flow into the Leaving Cert Applied program. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Martina McNamara, our programs coordinator, who will speak to us around the transition year program.
Thanks a million, Brian. Hello everyone, my name is Martina McNamara. I am the Programs Coordinator here at Ennis Community College, Gaelcholáiste and Clár. So I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. I'm just going to start by giving a brief intro and history around TY. So Brian sharing the slides for me. Thanks a million, Brian. So as Brian alluded to, this year will be the first year that we will have a class both in Community College and Gaelcholáiste, and as Program Coordinator, I'm very excited about this. And I suppose the what's to come with regards to TY for both sides of the school. So just as the name suggests, transition year, it's a 1-year school-based program between junior and senior cycle. So it's that bridge which allows students, to transition and move from junior cycle to senior cycle. And it, I suppose it facilitates, as I said here, the smooth transition from the more dependent learning of junior cycle to the more independent, self-directed learning required for senior cycle. And as we see with curriculum change, and which will come down the line, it is important for our students to develop those skills to help them with the challenges that they face as they move from junior cycle to senior cycle. So it was introduced in 1973, and you can see there by 1993 with 163 schools involved in the program, and by 2001, 507. Now, as of 2020, pre-COVID, there were almost 75% of all primary schools participating within the program. So that shows to us how important it is to schools and the many, I suppose, things it has to offer for students. So why opt for the year? Just some of the, the factors which students may need to consider: the challenges facing our young people, changing attitudes to education, the needs for skill-based learning, which is really important as you make that move from junior cycle to senior cycle. The age profile of Irish students. Some students may be very young and feel that this will be a good year for them to mature. So I suppose it's up to students just to reflect and see where they're going from after their junior cycle. Also, we have the Leaving Certificate and points race. Challenges as we face third level education, what they'd like to do, where they want to go, and maybe they just like to go straight into adult and working life. So transition year offers students that time to develop skills and to reflect. So the main aims of the transition year program, as you can see there from the Venn diagram: education for maturity. So I suppose the emphasis on a social awareness, increased social competences, the adult working life. A big part of TY is the chance to engage in work experience. So we offer 3 different blocks, which is a fantastic opportunity. And then the promotion of general technical and academic skills with an emphasis on interdisciplinary self-directed learning. So I suppose, you know, as you move away from the junior cycle, the TY offers students the chance to kind of develop their own skills and work with others. So it's a great opportunity to harness those skills they've already developed at junior cycle. So it's a school-based program. So our school offers our program, and we fit it around what we think will meet the needs of our students. So it's student focus with teachers' expertise utilised and harnessed, which is fantastic. Individual syllabi are written, varied teaching and learning methodologies, there's various assessments, and there's a school-based certification provided to each student. So if we look at the layer of transition years, we look at the core subjects, we look at subject sampling, which gives them an opportunity maybe to try out new subjects they never got to do, and then we look at the calendar layer, which is obviously subject to change as the year progresses. So here are our 4 main core subjects: Gaeilge, English, French, and Maths. And then we have our sampling subjects, which are obviously subject to change as well, but we work around that and the needs of our students. So sciences, home economics, technical graph, technology, computers, art, enterprise, music, history, geography, Spanish, and young social innovators. So it's quite a wide and varied program, offering a lot of choice for our students. Within our calendar year, we have Angashka President's Awards, so students participate in the Bronze Award. Now, obviously, if any of them are doing outside school, their PAL works with them to help them if they're at the silver or gold stage. We work experience with 3 blocks, usually November, February, and May. We have many guest speakers, and as we found in the last 2 years, we've had probably more guest speakers involved as we were learning online. We engage in outdoor pursuits. We've often went to Delphi, paintballing, done our Goshka trek, some field trips, and a big part of it is community care and involvement, which we complete every Wednesday. We also engage in some drumming workshops, if available, enterprise within the mini company of the business class. We engage in many different competitions as teachers see fit. We completed first aid, we do driver theory. We look at mindfulness, which is very important and integral to our well-being policy. We engage in a lot of charity work, and we're quite famous for it. We're in the papers nearly every second week for all the charity work we do. We engage in barista training and culinary skills, and we engage in dual and online courses, which offer the students many courses which are all certificate based. So we mentioned, or I mentioned all the different elements and the different subjects, but I suppose if we're going to look at TY and look at the transition between junior and senior cycle, it's important we get the balance right. So as you'll see there, there's more of a tendency to move towards new modules, new choices, more active teaching involved. It allows the students and teachers to really develop a different rapport. When you're engaging in junior cycle, it's quite traditional, it's very academic based, it's basic study habits, class-based learning, but we want to kind of move away from that and look at self-directed learning, look at learning outside of the school environment and working as a group and developing our communication skills. So here are some of the methodologies our teachers engage in. So we've active and learner focused. I suppose active, it's very much active and learner focused, where the teacher is a facilitator. We kind of moved away from, well, I suppose at junior cycle you are facilitating, but there's a lot of onus to get a lot of content covered, whereas here we're looking at how we can develop the student skills and how they engage in their own learning. It's very collaborative, working in groups and pairs. Obviously, as the last few years have been difficult, but we've worked around that. Some role play and simulations, project work or field work, depending on the subjects involved. Guest speakers are very important as they give us links to the outside world in many capacities. Negotiated learning and lots of practical work within different subject areas. So assessment, it's integral to teaching and learning. I took this in the DES guidelines. It says assessment should be an integral part of the learning process in transition year and not separate from it. So when we look at teaching and learning, we don't want to just say we've taught this, we've learned this, how are we going to assess it? Everything links together. So within TY, we have a portfolio assignment for assessment. We often have oral and oral assessments depending on the subject, a lot of project work, self-assessment. which involves self-reflection for students, peer assessment, written and practical skills, which are integral to the whole course. How have you developed skills, and what did you set out to develop at the beginning, and then at the end, have you achieved that? And we have a credit system which gives rise to their school-based certification at the end of the year. So evaluation is, for me as a program coordinator, evaluation is one of the most important parts of the program. I feel it's important to get all stakeholders input. So I send out Google Forms at the end of the year to the school, to our staff, to see how they've engaged in the program, what could we do better, how did they feel it went, to the subject teachers who teach it, each subject individually, to our students whose feedback without it, I wouldn't be able to really plan going forward, because they're honest, they tell me what they enjoyed, what we could have done better. Parents, I've gotten a lot of feedback over the last few years, which has been really, really important, because you are the parents of the students involved, and it's important that we see maybe things that we could do that you might see fit as well within our capacity. And also employers who without in the wider community would be very lost, because they have offered us so much opportunity in terms of work experience. Oh, my lights are going out, sorry. In terms of community involvement, charity work. So I'm really grateful for the people of Ennis and the wider Clare community for obliging us. So here's a projected cost over the year. Again, these are very much subject to change. So they're not set in stone, but this is just a rough estimate. So we engage in Gashka, and we, as part of the Gashka tour, the Gashka challenge, we often go to Delphi as our tour, our bonding night, or a few days of bonding, basically, to get the class together. We try and do that together to lower the cost. First aid is €100 because we do a 3-day course and they're qualified first aiders, and it's a 2-year certificate. The BT Young Scientist entry, that obviously changes every year. Drumming, driver theory lessons if we engage in them, end of year tour, life saving. Hopefully we'll be able to open that up now in conjunction with the COVID guidelines from the department and the government. Gym classes if we do, some cookery ingredients, miscellaneous trips, the PY journal, and the dueling courses. We're really fortunate over the last 2 to 3 years. The school have been so helpful, so I'm very grateful to Mr. Donoghue and Ms. Walsh for all they've done in terms of funding us. And to be fair, a lot of providers are offering some courses for free. So we try to jump on the bandwagon and get as much as we can value for money. So that's just a little lowdown on the program. I'm going to hand you back to Mr. Donoghue. He's just going to go through the application process, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Thanks, Ms. McNamara, and thank you very much. So I'll just finish off on the last slide here regarding transition year. As I said at the beginning, it's the first year in quite a while. We will have 2 transition year classes, one through Gaelga Clár, and the second through English in Ennis Community College. And that is a very, very exciting development to expand transition year to benefit all our students across the school. So we will be operating 2 classes. And 2 classes with a maximum of 24 students per class, so that's 48 students across. I will remind you that transition year is not a compulsory year in our school, so students can choose to progress directly into 5th year or directly into the Leaving Cert Applied programme. Of course, students that do transition year have the option at the end of the year, this time next year, to progress to the same programs, to progress to 5th year or the Leaving Cert Applied programme, either or, following transition year. A little word about the application process. The application forms will be circulated in school tomorrow and will be available on our website from tomorrow. The completed application forms must be returned to the school office by next Tuesday, that's the 8th of February, at the end of the school day, which is 3:50 p.m. And just a note that it is the responsibility of students to ensure that the application forms are submitted on time, and late applications will only be considered after all on-time applications are processed and assuming that places remain in the class. There may be an interview process and students are expected to engage in that if that interview process does take place, and they are invited to attend for interview. And importantly, factors that are considered in addition to the application and the interview should it take place are the student's behaviour record to date in school, their attendance record, their application to work over the last 3 years, so that's the 3 years of junior cycle, discussions and recommendations from year head in consultation with the teaching staff, and their suitability for the programme, and indeed the suitability of the programme to the individual applicant. The admissions policy is available on our website, and at the end of this evening's presentation, I will forward these slides to you, and the admissions policy for TY is hyperlinked in that presentation. I will just deviate a little bit from the slides, and there are just a couple of key points I think to mention. Transition year, I hear a lot, and I've heard for many years, is a DOS year. I can tell you that there is nothing further from the truth, and particularly in our school in Galcloughlin, Clore and Ennis Community College, Miss McNamara and the team involved in transition year run an excellent program, and I'd just like to thank Miss McNamara and the team for all that they do. Nationally, transition year has been researched extensively, principally by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment and the Economic and Social Research Institute. And these series of studies have found that students who completed a transition year program typically score significantly higher CAO points, and also are more educationally adventurous, which in simple English means that they often choose subjects that they would not have otherwise chosen. Transition year students, or students who have completed transition year, also show a lesser degree of dropout in university. And these are important points, particularly because the research also shows that age doesn't really matter. So all of these factors became evident even when age is controlled for. And this is something that you will hear quite a bit, that students that are young should do transition year, but the research actually suggests that that is not the case, that actually the benefits of TY are independent of age, and there are significant benefits for participating in a transition year program. So I'd encourage all students to consider a transition year, to have a discussion with parents and guardians at home, to have discussions with Miss McNamara and any other member of school staff, and to ask questions about it, and indeed ask former students that you may know that have gone through transition year or are currently in TY. It's an excellent program. It is not for everybody, and we need to acknowledge that transition year is not for everybody. Some students may like to finish school in 2 years rather than 3 years. So therefore transition year should be considered carefully. So it certainly is not for everybody, but I think for the vast majority of students, it certainly is a very beneficial program to consider. So it's a short overview of the TY program this evening. As I said, these slides will go to you after this evening's meeting tomorrow morning by email. And the application forms will be available on the website. So just again, be aware of the application deadline, which is this day next week, next Tuesday at the end of the school day. And students just need to pop the completed application form to the school office. So Ms. McNamara, I know you'll be joining us shortly again for another bit of the presentation. So for the moment, Goramila Magat. Just to remind everybody online there, you can pop the questions if you have any into the question bar, the chat bar, the Q&A bar, and we certainly will address these over the course of the evening also. I did mention at the start that this year we are looking at introducing a standardized test into third year. It's not a big, huge exam where students need to feel in any way pressurized whatsoever. There is no study for it. There's no preparation whatsoever for it. Our intention of running this exam, I shouldn't call it an exam, this test is to support students and to inform students and parents and guardians as to maybe the next steps that might be most beneficial for students. And as I say, it is not a high stakes test at all, and it is nothing for students or anybody else to be stressed out about at all. It's very, very supportive. So I'm going to let the expert lead on it. So I just call him Mr. Callahan, who's just going to talk you through briefly just the CAT4, the cognitive ability test.
Good evening to everyone. I'm just going to give quite a brief overview of this cognitive abilities test. The students will probably remember having done a very similar test in first year, and so they will already have a very good idea of what's involved. We're running it for the first year this year, as Mr. O'Donoghue said. Many schools around the country use it in third year, and we're using it this year really as an additional tool to help you to make the best decision for the coming next 2 years. And it's literally just that. It's a tool to help you make the decision, that's all. There is no study involved in preparing for this test. So there's nothing that you need to do. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview now of what's involved, and then towards the end you'll see exactly why we're running it. You will get this very brief 4-page report for parents. This is what you will get at the end of the test. So I'm just going to go now to the first page there, which is the individual report. So we have there an imaginary student. It's not a real student. This is a sample test taken from the website of the company that makes it, just by way of explanation. So this particular level of Cat 4 is the level G, and this is for students who are aged between 14 and 17. So our imaginary student here, Moses, is actually about age 16. And so the information that it gives us is an indicator of the areas in which a student can think and problem solve, and their ability levels in those areas. So moving on to the next page, then we have a series of examples there of the kinds of things that are involved in the test. So there are 4 different, what they call batteries. There's the verbal reasoning area or section, and that's a set of questions that are to do with words. So it's not a reading test as such, it's just a way of thinking with words. There's a numerical section, which is a way of thinking with numbers. You don't need a calculator, it's not a maths test, it's just to think using numbers. Then there's the non-verbal reasoning section, which is thinking using shapes. And finally, there is the spatial ability section, which is to do with thinking using shape and space. And so these are the 4 areas of the test. And then most importantly now, the last 2 slides, this is what you will get once the student has taken the test. So I just want to very briefly explain to you what you're seeing here. So our imaginary student Moses, this is the result here of the test that he took. So you can see in the middle there of the profile with the red horizontal bars, there is a yellowed section. That section represents the average band. So within that yellow section, that's where most students would fall. So if you have a look at Moses there, you can see the red line for his verbal results are up beyond the yellow band, which means that he has an above average verbal ability. His results in the quantitative section there fall just about into the yellow band, which means that his ability with numbers is around about average, but certainly not as good as his ability with words. And then the non-verbal band is in the average section towards the upper end of it. And then his ability with shape and space is slightly above average. And then underneath that, you will get a summary there of the things that your child is good at, and some of the areas that perhaps your child might be needing a little bit more support with, or perhaps it wouldn't be their area of skill. And so finally then on the last page, we've got something that are called indicators for leaving cert. And this again is an imaginary student, same student Moses, and it's just a page which might indicate to him and to his parents the subjects that he might have an area of strength in. So if we look up there at the first subject, which is biology, that does not mean that Moses is likely to get a H2 in biology necessarily. It means that Moses has a strength which might make biology as a subject choice a good subject for him. So it's an indicator. But what we have to be very careful to emphasize is that these indicators have to go hand in hand with other factors. So a very important factor is a student's motivation. A very important factor is a student's application to work. And of course, a very important factor is a student's attendance at school. So Moses can take the Cat 4 test and can find that he is predicted or indicated, shall we say, to get a H2 or perhaps a H1 in biology. But if Moses hardly attends school for the 2 years of leaving cycle, he is most definitely not going to get a H2 or a H1 in biology. So these results are purely as a platform for discussion for you at home as a parent to sit down with the student and to have a discussion about their areas of strength and the subjects that they might do well in. And it might prompt students to consider subjects that they might otherwise have discounted taking for senior cycle. So again, it's just purely as a platform for discussion. It's an indicator, and it has to be taken in tandem with lots of other factors, not just the student's ability. And so for that reason, we think that it might work to run the Cat 4 with our third years. We haven't done it before, so we're going to be seeing how it goes this year.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for that comprehensive overview of this testing. And again, as Linda said, it is nothing to be too stressed about, and there's no preparation involved. And it's a support and a help and assistance at this juncture, which is the juncture between junior and senior cycle. It is valuable whether or not students choose to follow the transition year program, for example, because obviously what we're speaking about in terms of subject choice and so on will be relevant to the following year. It's also valuable, of course, to our Leaving Cert applied students. So we think running it in third year, as we intend doing over the next few weeks, should be very, very beneficial and should facilitate a good discussion and a good conversation, both here within school, but also at home as well, with you, with your son and daughter. And again, of course, it is not a predictive test, as Mr. Callahan has said, and that's really important to bear in mind and to consider. So the next portion of the evening will discuss the Leaving Cert Applied program, the LCA program. This program is offered in the English setting in Ennis Community College to students. It is a 2-year program, and it prepares students for adult and working life. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to our guidance counsellor, Ms. Murray, who's going to set the scene in terms of the Leaving Cert Applied program, where it sits in, for example, compared to the Leaving Cert, and the opportunities that the Leaving Cert Applied program presents students both during school and beyond school.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Ms. Murray. Thanks to Mr. Donoghue. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the Irish National Framework of Qualifications. So it organises the 10 levels of qualifications that we have in Ireland, and it's really important for students to know which level that they're at. So the LCA, as you can see there, is level 4 on the National Framework of Qualifications. The reason that it's important to know this is because when LCA students progress, they can do PLCs, they can go on to certificates, level 5, level 6, and it's just for their progression in order to make well-informed decisions and to map out any future choices that they may have. So just looking at the Leaving Certificate Applied route map, okay, so these are just some of the options available to leaving certificates that take the LCA. So as I said already, it's level 4. A student can go directly into the world of work should they choose to do so on completion of the LCA course. If they would like to go on and progress their education, the options are further education. So you have your PLC courses, which are very, very popular, and we have a fantastic campus on the Clon Road, which offers a range of brilliant courses. We have apprenticeships, they're QQI level 6, and then we have further and higher education, so traineeships and courses, which I'll speak about as well. So this is the new CAO layout to the website. So this year it had a complete overhaul, and they just wanted to make it very central for students to access all information regarding absolutely everything. So as you can see, you have the higher education, which is more aimed towards the traditional leaving certificate. We have further education and training. And then we have apprenticeships. So these are the two that I'm going to be speaking about. But you can access all information through cao.ie. So further education and training, so the PLCs, your post-leaving certificate courses, traineeships and colleges of further education, all information for these courses is available on fetchcourses.ie. It's a very simple process, when you're applying for courses, and all information is on that website. So the post-leaving certificate courses for progression. So you can apply for these at the end of the year. It's best to apply early as possible. So there are a wide variety of courses across lots of different subject and career areas. Entry into these courses is not based on points at all. It's a great way to try out an area of study. One of the most popular PLC courses is actually the pre-nursing course. And it's really good for people to try out an area because they might actually decide, well, I actually don't like this course, or there's a lot more biology in this, or, so it's just really good for testing the water and before committing to a longer course. It's a great backup plan for people. There are quite a lot of progression routes through the QQI. They have links into universities, technological universities, and institutes of technology for many of their courses. It's ideal for students who are very young, or for students who just maybe they're not quite sure what they want to do long term. Some of the places are located closer to home. They have small class sizes, which means they get extra attention from their tutors, and a lot of them have work experience modules. So traineeships then, these range from level 4 to level 6 on the NFQ. And again, a lot of this information is available on fetchcourses.ie. So these courses were developed and delivered by the ETBs working in partnership with industry representatives and employers. The reason they have these courses is to respond to an identified industry skills need. And anyone that does these courses, they're extremely employable, which is great. There are a great variety of training opportunities across lots of careers. The courses are usually between 6 to 20 months in duration, depending on the one which you may choose. They include at least 30% of learning on the job, which is great for anybody doing a course. They combine transversal and technical skills development, and their SUSI grant is available for some of these courses. So I just added the brochure here from Clonmode, just to show you a range of the courses that are available. So the second one there is University Access, which is General Studies. This is a great course for anybody who wants to actually progress on to university. You can get a maximum of 400 points and use those points to reapply to the colleges, which a lot of people do. A lot of the other courses then are brilliant for employment. And yeah, it's a fantastic campus. Anyone who's thinking about doing LCA should go up and have a look. They're very, very accommodating up there. So on to apprenticeships. So there are 3 steps involved in becoming an apprentice. The first step is to choose the apprenticeship program of interest. Now, we're blessed here because in Clare we have the Shannon Training Centre, and they have a wide range of apprenticeships that are very popular. Step 2, you secure your employer to complete an apprenticeship with. So somebody that takes you on, maybe somebody that you know, or a family friend that has a business. Step 3, you earn as you learn, which is brilliant. So you earn and learn on the job with the employer and off the job at the training centre. So the apprenticeships range in levels from 5 to 10. As you can see there, there's a wide range of apprentices on offer at the moment. They're always updating them and changing them and progressing. So by the time your son or daughter gets through the LCA program, there'll be lots more available as well. So currently, as you can see, there are 62 programs available and lots more in development. So there are over 8,000 employers that are currently employing 23,000 apprentices. This is planned to increase to 45,000, which is great. Apprentices are usually between 2 and 4 years. Again, it depends on which one that you actually choose to do. Apprentices may be hired by the employer for the duration of the apprenticeship as well, which is great. And apprentices are recruited all year round, so there's no specific time of the year that you should be checking that. And for more information on that, you can go to www.apprenticeshipsireland.ie. So a reminder to everybody that there is not just one pathway for everyone, but several. So explore them all and unlock your potential. And just to say as well that I'm available for appointments for anybody who'd like to sit down and have a chat about what option is best for them in terms of LCA, TY, traditional leaving cert. I'm available in my office every day. So if anybody wants to make an appointment, I'd be very happy to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Moira. I'm just going to jump in now and give an introduction to what is involved in the programme. So as Brian mentioned earlier, the Leaving Certificate Applied helps students build their self-confidence and become more responsible. So basically, it's a distinct self-contained two-year Leaving Certificate course aimed at preparing our learners here for the adult working life. And it emphasizes forms of achievement and excellence, which maybe the Leaving Cert established is not recognised in the past. So as you can see here, will you just go back one, Brian? Sorry, thanks. As you can see here, it's a two-year practical Leaving Cert. So it's a work and career focus. So there's work experience every Wednesday on the blocks. We do that for the 4 different terms. We focus on successive achievement, which I'll mention later in returns to tasks and interviews. There's many different ways of learning. So like TY, we look at active learning, different methodologies to try and encourage our learners to engage in the content. As Moira has given us a very, very in-depth explanation of the pathway to further education and training, which is fantastic for our learners to know. The class is a community as a classroom. So all the LCA class work together as a team to achieve their tasks, to get as much as they can done together. So we look at developing communication skills. We also look at individuals and recognize their talents. And it's continuous assessment, which I will explain more later. So it's a two-year program divided into 4 half-year blocks called sessions. Now, there's a lot of new words and key terms which students may not be aware of, or parents, regarding the course. So we call each session, we call each block a session. It runs from September to the end of January, and January to the end of May, roughly June, and that's for year 1 and 2. Within those 2 years, the students are working on the key assignments, which must be completed during each session. Those key assignments are very important because once they're completed and you've not over 90% attendance, you get your credits. So it's a continuous assessment. It's marked from the very day we enter to the last day we leave. Also, 90% attendance in each subject is a major part of this course. If you don't fulfill those criteria, you won't get your credits, which is an awful pity because people put in a lot of work, but they might slack a little bit on the attendance side of things. So within Ennis Community College, students must complete all of the following subjects in LCA. So we look at English and communications, mathematical applications. We look at French as a modern language for year 1. I just want to mention there that if a student is exempt from Irish, that does not automatically mean they're exempt from French as a modern foreign language. Gaelga for year 1, depending, we alternate. And vocational preparation, that's very important because that incorporates guidance from Miss Murray, job search, enterprise, work experience, community work, and work and living. So that all incorporates a lot of elements, and it's very good, very, very important module because and subject because we'll be looking at work experience within that. Our other subjects are, we do 2 specialisms, hotel, catering and tourism. All the class do, and then they get to pick from either hair and beauty or graphics and construction. That's our second specialism. We also do arts, visual arts, introduction to communication, technology, ICT in 5th year, and then our elective, which we will do over the 2 years. We usually alternate between science and music. We also complete social ed over the 2 years and leisure and recreation. So integral to the course or to the program is work experience. So it's a very, very important element of the program, and it links in with the VPG modules. So students must plan experience and review their work experience. So students have to organize their own work experience. The onus is not on the school. The students are well aware entering the program that they must do this. And they are given the forms, the insurance forms, the work forms, and myself and the year head give as much help as we can, but it's up to the student to pick what they want to do. The importance of work experience is it gets self-confidence, communication skills going by working with adults, by getting that experience of having to work with other people and people older than you. It develops personal skills for the workplace, and it looks at possible career paths, which, you know, as Ms. Murray said, if a student is like entering a course, if they do a work experience and they realize, God, this isn't for me, it's better they realize it now than maybe, you know, entering a job later on in life and going, oh, well, it's a bit late now. So community work, this module is about the work of community and voluntary organizations. How can you help community? So that comes in with BPG. Guidance, as already with Ms. Murray, it's made up of 4 modules and done over 2 years. Those are the modules there. I won't go through every module, but they're there if you want to have an extensive look at the PowerPoint later on the hub. Now, this is very important, and I'll kind of focus on this for a few minutes. So there's final examinations in the subjects, as you can see here. Subjects get credits. So there's 200 credits in total for the program. And the final examinations just within these subjects alone gives a total of 68. So for English and communication, you're getting 12. For your 2 specialisms, HCT and whichever one you pick, hair and beauty or graphics construction, you're getting 12. Your languages, you're getting 6 each. It also incorporates an oral and written part. An oral part. Social ed, you get 10, and mathematical applications, where we're given a written research topic, plenty of advance, by the way, you get 10 credits. So just engaging the subject alone is nearly 70 out of 200, which is quite a substantial amount. So as I said, there's 200 credits, 68, nearly almost 70 is going for the end of year exam, or the end of year 2 examinations. However, within the 2 years, you will be completing 7 tasks. These are carried out within both vocational prep, vocational aid, general education, contemporary issues within social education, your personal reflection, which you do in year 1 and year 2, and your practical achievement. So you can see here again, there's 10 credits for each one. So again, another 70 credits going for the task. So this really, I think, drives home the importance of attendance within the program. As you can see here, within year 1, I think it's really good. It's very self-explanatory. Within year 1 of session 1, you do 1 in general aid. That's usually at the end of January, beginning of February. You do an interview with an examiner and you discuss what you did within your task. Then in year 2, you've 1 in vocational prep and vocational education. Usually the first specialism we examine is hotel catering or tourism. In year 3, in year 2, you do session 3, you've 3 there. Vocational education, contemporary issues, and practical achievement. Over the last 2 years, students have been exempt for 1 because of teaching online and COVID, but as years go, as I'd say things will go back to normal, you'll be doing the 3 of them. And then also with the practical achievement in, the personal reflection at the end of year 2, at the end of year 4. So again, 70 credits there for completing tasks with teacher support, students fully with, and it's quite enjoyable because you get to look at different elements of different subjects that you would like to harness and learn more about. So a very important question, do Leaving Certified students receive a Leaving certificate? Yes, of course they do. For students who complete the programme successfully, they will receive their certificate of the State Examinations Commission. All credits will be recorded against the parchment, and these come in after each session as its continuous assessment, and I meet the students and go through how they've done and maybe they'll be able to focus in on where they can improve on. So the results go as follows. Students get 200 credits, as I said, over 2 years. 62 are in school, attendance and completed key assignments. Very, very important. I mentioned the 68 from the 6 subjects at the end of year 2 exams, 70 from the 7 interviews, projects and tasks, but 62 are going for completing key assignments, which students are well able to do with the help and support of their teachers, and 90% attendance. So again, I'll say it again, attendance is imperative to get as many credits as possible. So this is just a kind of, I suppose, it summarizes nicely the little infographic here. Upon satisfactory completion of the modules and 90% attendance, you get 4 key assignments for each module, 1 credit per course module in which there's no exam. So for example, there might be no exam in a certain topic, so they only get 1 credit for that and 2 for those in which there's no exam. There's 70 for the tasks, and then the exams at the end, you have 68 credits. So that's a breakdown of the amount of credits. So how is LCA graded? There is a pass, merit and distinction grading level. So between 120 to 139 credits, you get a pass, 140 to 169 credits at merit, and over 170, you get a distinction. Now, there are some students who may not acquire that many credits, and those that get less than 120 or who leave the program early will receive a record of experience. So they will leave with something. However, as programs coordinator, it would be my, my overall aim that we would push towards getting as many distinctions, merits as we can within the program. So what can students do when they finish LCA? Well, it's great that Ms. Murray has gone through the pathways, because students sometimes, whether it's the Leaving Cert established or the LCA program they enter, they're a little bit maybe worried or confused about what they can do. So you can look for a job, enter the world of work. You can get an apprentice through the SULIS program, apply to do a PLC course, which many are run on Clonroad in conjunction with the Ennis College of Further Education. Complete this PLC and maybe continue on to college or get a job, and apply to become a guard, army officer, cadet, hotel employee, FOSS, etc. You cannot go directly into third level colleges, as we've mentioned before, but there are many pathways and routes which can enable you to do so. So, as within the school policy, and it's not unusual for us to interview the students who wish to enter the program. It's very important for me as the program coordinator and their year head, and Mr. Donoghue and Ms. Walsh, and everyone else involved, that we kind of get a flavour for why you're doing it. So here are some of the questions. They're not an extensive list, but I want you to think about on reflection why you're applying for it. What does it mean to you to be engaged in LCA? What can you bring to LCA? What would you like to do in terms of work placement? How your behaviour has been over the last 3 years within junior cycle, your attendance. Are there any challenges you're worried about? And any other general questions, I'm here to help you as best I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will find you the answer. So it's very important, if you're offered an interview, that you attend it. Obviously, for extenuating circumstances, we can work around that. But the list and names will be outside the guidance counsellor's office and on the LCA notice board. I'll also put it inside in the LCA base rooms, or sorry, the third year base rooms. If you miss your allocated time, you will place at the end of the list. And if you can't make it, could you please contact either myself, Mr. McNamara, Mr. Murphy, your head, or Ms. Murray, and we will make you a new appointment. So applications, as I said, if you're interested in the program and you'd like to submit an application, you must do so before next Tuesday at 3:50, the end of school day. It's the responsibility of you, teen students, that you submit it on time. Myself or Ms. Murray, Mr. Donoghue, Mr. Murphy, none of us are going to be chasing students. It's up to you. If you have an interest in the program, then you must show an interest in applying for it. Late applications will only be considered after all the on-time applications have been processed. So obviously, if you're not in, you can't win. So get in there as quick as possible with your application, because I know there's quite a demand and quite an interest this year, which is very, very nice to hear. So I'm at the end of that slideshow, and thanks a million for listening. If you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat. Thanks again.
That's great. And I'd just like to thank Ms. McNamara, Ms. Murray, and Ms. O'Callaghan for your input. A lot has been presented tonight. There are a number of different programs. So we began with transition year and we followed through to the testing that we'll introduce. And we finished there on the Leaving Cert Applied program. And just to note that with regard to the Leaving Cert Applied program, effectively there is kind of two parts to it. There's the school-based part, and then there's the written exam that takes place in June, just like the Leaving Cert takes place in June. The school-based part has many elements that contribute to the final award and the final certificate and the final grade that students get. And equally, the written exams in June, which take place at the end of sixth year, just like every other student, they've also got parts that feed into the program as well, and the final award that students get. So it's a very, very broad experience. And when you compare it to the established Leaving Cert, where there might be some projects in some subjects, Leaving Cert Applied is continuous, happening over the 2 years with the exams at the end. And both Ms. McNamara and Ms. Murray outlined the progression routes. I should just mention that Clonroad, the PLC courses, the post-leaving certificate courses at Clonroad are administered by our school. So for example, I'm the principal of the PLC section in Clonroad. Ms. Walsh is the deputy principal. And that is a huge bonus to our students, because we can allow access and different pathways and access information very directly to the benefit of our students. We spoke about it in the context of the Leaving Cert Applied program, but of course PLC programs are available to all students, including students that follow the established Leaving Cert. They're becoming very prominent. And over the last 2 to 3 years at Clonroad, we have introduced a number of additional programs based on demand of both students and employers and companies in our region. And the campus at Clonroad has been significantly redeveloped, and it really is a terrific place for the benefit of the students of Ennis Community College and Gaeltacht and Clore and other schools and many others and many other adult learners as well. Ms. Murray mentioned the Shannon Training Centre, which is operated by Limerick and Clare Education and Training Board. We, of course, are a Limerick and Clare ETB school. And again, we've got an added advantage over other schools in that we have ways and means to help support our students that perhaps other schools don't. And we've got direct pathways and direct lines of communication that, of course, we can use for the benefit of our students, and we're more than happy to do so. At this point, I would just say that myself, Ms. Walsh, Ms. McNamara, Ms. Murray and Ms. O'Callaghan are available to you, parents and guardians, and to our students at any time. And you're welcome, of course, over the coming days in particular, but at any time to connect in with us by telephone or by email. And indeed, students can, of course, pop into the office since they're in the school regularly. I did invite you to pop some questions into the chat bar or into the Q&A bar, and I'm just going to go through them now. So if anyone has some final questions that are just crossing your mind and you'd like to start typing, please feel free to do so, and I'll go through the ones that are there. So somebody's asked a question about the junior certificate exams, the junior cycle exams, and when they finish. You may have noticed, noted that Cabinet government made a decision today around the Leaving Certificate and the Junior Certificate. So the Junior Certificate exams will proceed this year for the first time since 2019. They'll begin on Wednesday, the 8th of June, and the end date, off the top of my head, I don't know, but it will be around the 23rd, 24th of June. It, of course, depends on the subject. The subjects that your son and daughter are doing, but you can expect them to finish around the 23rd, 24th of June. The timetables for the Junior Certificate exam have not been published by the SEC yet. We're expecting those in the coming days, and when they are published, we will publish those onto the Student Hub section of our website, just to make them easy to find on the exam page of the Student Hub section of our website. So you can go to gaeltacht.com or you can go to enniscommunitycollege.com and just click into the Student Hub section, and you can find the exam page there. Just talking about exams, the mock exam timetables have been published and they're now available to download from the Student Hub section of that page. Are there places for every student in transition year? There are 24 places in Gaeltacht and Clore in TY, and there are 24 places in Ennis Community College in transition year. So that's a total of 48 places. Students will need to apply, and we've outlined the selection criteria that will be used, and that is published in the admissions policy, which is available on our website for you to view. And just a note there, when Mr. Callan was going through on the Cat 4 testing, and just to note that music as a subject is missing. Of course, the Cat 4 is a standardized test, and all schools offer a different range of subjects. So it documents, I suppose, the main subjects that are offered typically by a school at the Leaving Cert, but not all subjects. And that's just because not all schools offer all subjects. So it doesn't cover everything. Of course, it's not a fait accompli, and it would be a very big mistake to assume that standardized tests like the Cat 4 test is a fait accompli and it's a predictor of exactly what's going to happen, as Ms. Callahan outlined. That is not the case. So just because it says maybe it identifies you as maybe not being as successful as you'd like in one subject area or very successful in another subject area, that doesn't bar anybody from anything at all. They're simply a point in time and an indication at a point in time, and that is all they are. But they're good for, I suppose, the basis of a discussion, and that's why we're looking at them. But they're not a predictor, and they're not tying anybody into anything. And that whole piece about grit and determination and resilience certainly cannot be ignored and cannot be forgotten. Where do you get the application form for the Leaving Cert Apply programme? The LCA application forms will be distributed in school tomorrow, and I will also publish those on the Student Hub section of our website. So we'll have a little section there around senior cycle options. If you go to the Student Hub section, you'll see a little bit about senior options, and there will be information there. I will email them to parents and guardians as well tomorrow, along with the slides that we've used this evening. Will the junior cycle exam be modified like the Leaving Cert exam? Yes, is the answer. One modification is the reduction in CBA's classroom-based assessments that took place. The other modifications, you can read about those. They're published on our Student Hub section of our website. I'm harping on now, but if you go to the exam page on the Student Hub section of the website, there'll be a bit about state exams, and there's a document there that will outline the arrangements for both the Leaving Cert and the Junior Cert exams, and with all the modifications there as well. If you choose transition year or LCA, do you automatically go forward into 5th year, or do you need to apply? 5th year, I presume that question 5th year is referring to the established Leaving Cert program. So that would be the traditional Leaving Cert program. If you do transition year, you have the option to go either the traditional Leaving Cert route afterwards, or else go the Leaving Cert applied route afterwards. So the Leaving Cert applied and the traditional Leaving Cert run alongside each other. Transition year happens before both. So it is open to students to do transition year, and at the end of transition year, then to choose, do they want to progress down the traditional Leaving Cert route, or else do they want to progress down the Leaving Cert applied route, one or the other, when it comes to LCA or the established Leaving Cert, traditional Leaving Cert. Is engineering a sampling subject in transition year? Not at the moment, not currently, and that's just due to resourcing issues of the school. How much depth do the 4 subjects go into? 4 subjects are timetabled for 4 periods per week. So currently, for example, maths at junior cycle would be 5 periods. So in transition year, there are 4 periods per week. Do students have to apply for 5th year like transition year or LCA? And that's a good question, because it leads directly into the next little bit that I'd like to mention. This, as I mentioned at the start, is the first night of the senior cycle options. There's an awful lot to consider, and cramming it all into one night probably is not the most beneficial thing. So right now, we'd like students and parents and guardians to think about programs. So as a student, would I like to do Leaving Cert applied? As a student, would I like to do transition year? Or as a student, would I like to progress directly into 5th year and do the established Leaving Cert? Those 3 pathways are available to all our students. Tonight, if you would like to do the LCA program or the transition year program, you need to apply for that program by next Tuesday to have your hat in the ring. After that, we're going to come back after midterm break, and we're going to talk about the traditional Leaving Cert route, and we'll talk about the subjects that are on offer on that route. So it's a kind of a 2-pronged process. As I said tonight, I think there's a lot of content, and if we added the traditional Leaving Cert into it and went through all the detail that's involved in that, I think it would be a recipe for disaster. There's a lot to take in. So at the end of tonight and over the coming days, and there's no rush to get an application in, just as long as it's in on time. There's no benefit in getting it in tomorrow morning to us. Just as long as it's submitted on time, that's fine by us. And I certainly would encourage you to do that, just to slow it down a little bit. Take your time, think about it, talk, ring the school, ring any of us, email any of us. If you want advice, we will return your call. We will have a discussion with you. We will support you. If students would like to call to any of us, call into Miss Murray, for example, I'd encourage them to do so. Take your time and consider your options carefully. There is a question there, can you take LCA if you have a language exemption? And the answer to that question is, of course, yes. If you're exempt from Irish, for example, there is absolutely no problem whatsoever taking the LCA program, none whatsoever. There's no block at all. So that's the questions that are in the chat bar. It just leaves me just to thank all participants in this evening's webinar. We really do hope that you found it useful. There will be a lot of information, and there currently is a lot of information on our website that I've drawn your attention to already. So I would encourage you to visit the school websites and to visit the relevant pages for senior cycle. We're talking about senior cycle programs. So you will find transition year, Leaving Cert applied, the established Leaving Cert listed in the senior cycle section of the Student Hub section of our website. And again, just to repeat, if you do have any questions over the coming days, that is students or parents, guardians, you are most welcome just to contact us and to ask those questions. This evening's webinar has been recorded, and along with the slides and the application forms tomorrow, I will also email a recording of tonight's webinar. So if you can remember the particular section, you'll be able to skim through it and just pick out the bits that you want. or indeed watch the whole thing again if that's what you'd like to do. So finally, just to thank Ms. McNamara, to thank Ms. Murray, and to thank Ms. O'Callaghan for their participation and all their preparation and their presentations this evening. We do have a great team in the school, and these are just 3 fine examples of our great team, our wonderful school in Galcloughlin and Clora and Ennis Community College. So I wish you all the best this evening, and I look forward to seeing our students tomorrow morning. And again, that invitation is available to parents to contact us at any time to discuss any issue that you wish. So good night, everybody. And once again, Míle buíochas go léir, Cuir míle mágaibh. Slán.